out, half back, over the bar from 60 metres, rinse, wash, repeat, and it's too samey. I mean, statistically, there's no doubt it's happening. The question is, there's no doubt extra scores are happening. The question is, do we want to bring it back? Do we want to see fewer scores?
I don't. I think, it's hurling is the fastest field sport in the world. So, I mean, it's because it's the fastest field sport, because the ball can travel the fastest, it's obviously going to be more of a chance of getting more scores from that. I think the level of training and the quality of training that players are putting in now is incomparable to even 10 years ago even.
Yeah.
And the professionalism of players and the amount of time individually they're putting into their skills, like the hurleys. I mean, I even look at someone's hurley there from, if anyone was hurling in the early 2000s even, the bosses were much smaller. And I mean, even when Patrick Horgan was kind of the first maybe big star outfield player that kind of maybe came to people's attention that he was using such a big boss. But I used to play at Fitzgibbon in LIT with a guy called Earl Latanian from Galway in 2005 or 6 and 7. And if he didn't have a hurley, he would use James Skettle's spare goalie's hurleys out the field. And, the lads, we'd be looking at him going, what is this fella doing using the goalie's hurley out the field? And he just said, well, it's a bigger boss, less of a chance of missing the ball.
Okay, so bigger boss, bigger sweet spot.
Bigger boss, bigger sweet spot. The weight of the slitter seems to be a factor as well. I'm sure the GAA will probably, and people will probably look into this and probably just bring out a generic weighted slitter and make the slitter an official slitter that like in Croke Park now, the slitter would have to have the stamp on it for it to be used on All-Ireland final day. So maybe that's something they look to. But I think, Joe, I don't think it's doing anything bad, like having this amount of scores. I just think it shows the level of skill, and also there is this kind of a scoring zone in the GAA or in GAA games in general for me, and most people would say like it's kind of those two big telegraph poles that hold up the net and behind the goals, that kind of that zone, that's where 70% of scores come from. And if you look at most of the top teams now, most of their shots are coming within that zone. I mean, there's not many lads taking a shot out by the sideline now, because they know, first of all, if they miss it, they're going to get lambasted in the team meeting the next week when they're looking at video analysis. And secondly, they'll know themselves, the percentages of it going over are 1 or 2 and 10, and it is a team game, and the top teams are getting most of their scores from that zone now.
Do you think generally your viewpoint is the majority out there amongst hurling people, that they're quite happy with the direction in which the game is going from a scoring point of view?
I think most hurling people are happy enough with the with the level of scores. Like, I suppose if it does get ridiculous that you have 70 plus or 80 scores in the game, it would have to be questioned about maybe what's going on in the defence. Like, maybe it's not the slitter all the time. Maybe, as Michael said there was the 2 metre rule was nearly being upheld on the field the other day as well, where some of the defending going on wasn't, it just wasn't up to scratch. And again, a lot of this comes down to me for the crowds not being there. There isn't that, that energy that players get off the crowds. Like, anyone that's been lucky enough to kind of run out to full Croke Park, you can't compare the energy and the adrenaline rush you get off that. Like, and if you don't have that there, you're down a bit of energy straight away. Like, does the match mean the same to the players? Of course it does. But I mean, there's no point in saying anything else that they do get an energy off the crowd, like, and that does drive them on a little bit more, maybe to get that hook or that block in. But look, the teams are going to have to adapt to this. There is not going to be crowds this year. They're going to have to adapt to it, and I think it's a championship of adversity, in that this is one of the things teams will have to come over, and like, whoever does come out on top this year will be the team for me who have adapted the most to all these changes, John.
Limerick 36 points, Clare 123, 10-point winning margin in the end. 15 points apiece at half-time, interestingly. Now, Clare did have the wind on their backs. Tony Kelly was ridiculous, 17 points, 8 of them from play. But then second half starts, Limerick set a scorching pace, 6 unanswered points, and cruise home in about 4th gear, I'd say, Shane.
Yeah, and I heard it mentioned the other day as well. I think Nancy Daly said it. We're going to start probably using it more and more in GAA terms now, about the quarter after half time being championship quarter. And as you said there, Graham Mulcahy, he had a point within, I think, 4 or 5 seconds of the restart. Yeah. And I think, Limerick got 5 points in 5 minutes there. And look, at that stage, they look so comfortable. I know Ryan Taylor, he got that goal, like, but for me, for me, Limerick never got going in the first half. I know it didn't come out till later than Clare in the second half. I'd say John Kiley kept them for a good reason underneath that tunnel in Semple Stadium. Maybe waited till Clare lads were gone and maybe told them how he really felt about the first half performance.
Yeah.
And I just feel a different Limerick team came out in that second half. They looked awesome. They really did. 36 points. Okay, they didn't score a goal, but I mean, Jeannie, if they keep scoring 36 points, they won't be touched. The Tony Kelly thing for me, Joe, is on several different teams around the country. Like you take Galway, it's Joe Canning, it's Patrick Horgan down in Cork, TJ to a degree in Kilkenny, and it's Tony Kelly in Clare. And you just have to swallow your pride a small bit as the manager on the other side, and you say these guys have to be man marked. Tip did it last year, Joe, down in Ennis. Brendan Maher picked up Tony, held him. I think held him scoreless from play, and then Brendan scored a point from play himself that day, and Tipperary won that match handy because, Tony didn't have a good game, and because of that, Clare didn't have a good game. And the other side of it is Clare have lost some serious big names, and they just haven't replaced them with the same quality player. I'm talking about, like, Peter Duggan has gone to Australia. He hasn't been replaced with the same quality of player. John Conlon hasn't been replaced with the same quality player. Even Colm Galvin, the way he can play midfield and he can drop back into that sweeper role. They just haven't the same quality of player replacing these guys. And, you'd be worried, what if Tony Kelly had an off day the other day? Where were Clare going to be? Could it have been seriously embarrassing,
Polar opposite to Clare then, Limerick had 11 different scorers who contributed 26 points from play, and their substitutes bench came on and really added to the whole procession as well. So Limerick against Tipperary, I mean, already this is mouthwatering. We have Tipperary defending their All-Ireland title. It feels like about 10 years ago since they won the All-Ireland, but they're defending their All-Ireland title. What's the word on Tip then? 1 win out of 5 in the league. Again, that all feels like ancient history. What are we looking at here on Sunday?
Tip going very bad, Joe. Very, very low numbers of training. These things.
There's no chance, do they?
No chance. They'll hardly have a team for Sunday, I'd say. No, I tell you, as you said, look, I think Sunday is massive, right, for a few reasons. Now, obviously, it's Tip in Limerick, and where my club is here, we're near enough the border. I gave 10 years teaching inside in Limerick, and there is there's a fierce rivalry there between Tip and Limerick. It's the fans and everything. But for me, it's a few things, right? It's Limerick went out and beat us last year in the Munster final inside the Gaelic grounds. 226-214, 12-point victory. They probably were 20 points a better team on the day. Limerick lost the All-Ireland semi-final by a point to Kilkenny, and they just didn't get going the first 20-25 minutes. And talking to Limerick people and just even knowing some of the Limerick players, they are seriously hurting from that, because they felt, and a lot of people might have felt, they would have bet Tip in the All-Ireland final. And, even in the league this year, they bet Tip by 2 points, 214 to 18 points, I think it was, in January. So there's so many things here, right? And even in the Munster final last year, I say Tipperary, we'd no Carl Barrett on the day, and Bonner wasn't available either. I mean, if you took Sean Finn and say even Garrod Hegarty out of the Limerick team, it's 2 big guys to be gone. Brendan had to drop back and mark Aaron Gillan. His influence from the half-back line was gone then as well. So I just think this is a massive game on Sunday between these 2 sets of players who are, for me, 2 of the top teams in the country. Whoever wins the All-Ireland will have to beat Tip or Limerick on the way. And I just think whoever wins Sunday, they can say, you know what, we're actually better than you. The no ifs or buts. The no if we had everyone last year, or if Limerick would say if we bet Kilkenny, if we got to the All-Ireland final. There's no ifs or buts. Both teams have more or less everyone to select from. Now, of course, Mike Casey and Rich English. Now, Rich English, I'm hearing might feature maybe on the 26, but they're both sides have a more or less a full deck to pick from. They're both going in unusual circumstances. I think the pitch will be a factor. You might say Páirc Uí Chaoimh, it's a top class pitch. It is, but it's a very heavy pitch, Joe, and it mightn't offer that kind of that free flowing hurling which we're used to seeing in summer championship hurling, because it does tend to kind of dig up and it does kind of come up in scraws a good bit. Now I know there's been a lot of work done on it recently, but that's still going to happen. The pitch down there. So I just think Sunday down at Páirc Uí Chaoimh it's going to be a mouth-watering tie there. I do feel that I think Bonner is back. Bonner is back. There's going to be some serious matchups there. As I say, Cathal Barrett will be able to play now that he wasn't able to play last year. I just think Tip are coming in, and there's not much been said about him. And I think Tip are going to win this on Sunday.
Okay, great. Well, on that note, Shane, we'll talk to you maybe next week and get your thoughts on the match. Thanks so much for joining us, Shane McGrath.
Cheers, Joe.
Cheers.
Talk soon.
Shane McGrath there, All-Ireland winner with Tip. Just going for Tip. It's going to be a brilliant game. That's on Sunday. Let me give you the time if you're looking for it. 3:30 is Cork Waterford on the Saturday. 4 o'clock, Porky Queeve, Limerick against Tip.
Off the ball on News Talk.
I want to suck your blood. I want to suck